there, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Samantha and this is my channel where I talk all about books. And today is my birthday. Yes, today is my 26th birthday, which is pretty crazy. I don't know what you mean, 26. I am just a baby who is married, but a baby. I am 26 today, which is absolutely crazy, and today we're going to do a video which feels even crazier, and we're going to talk about 30 books I want to read before I'm 30. Which, what do you... 30? What do you mean 30? I'll be 30 in 4 years. I thought I would make a list of 30 books to read in those 4 years before I turn 30, hopefully. You might think it's a little bit premature because 4 years is quite a long time, but I am notoriously bad for making lists of books that I need to read by a certain time and then not actually reading them. So I thought if I give myself as much time as I can, then like I have to read it by then, right? I'm giving myself 4 years. I guess before we get into the books, I'll talk a little bit about what I see for myself at 30, like where I think I'll be in my life. But I guess there are like 3 things that I think will have happened and I would like to have happened by then. I think number 1, I definitely want to have more of an idea of what I want to do with my life career-wise, because at the moment I'm still a little bit up in the air about what I want to do long-term with my life. So I'd like to have a little bit more of an idea of what I want to do with my career. Also, I would like for us to own a house. My husband and I wanted to buy a place a couple of years ago, but we couldn't because he had an accident and we're still waiting for everything to get sorted out with that. So at the moment, we have to stay where we are, which is fine, but in 4 years time we better not be living with my mother anymore. So yeah, I would like for us to own our own place and preferably not be in England anymore because I don't like living here. I've wanted to leave for 10 years and I'm still here. And the last thing which I think will have happened is we will probably have a child, which is not something I want for myself right now, but in 4 years time I think we'll definitely be heading in that direction of starting a family. That's what I see for myself in the next 4 years. Yeah. Anyway, let's chat about all of the books before I have an existential crisis. So in theory, I guess these books should be like books that are gonna improve who I am as a person and all that. But honestly, I just want to read books that I think will enrich my life because they'll be fun and I will enjoy them. So that's most of what we've got on here. I don't have any like massive award winners and stuff like that on here because that's not really my vibe. I'm not that bothered about reading, you know, the Booker Prize winners and stuff like that. These are just books that I think I'm gonna enjoy and would like to read before I'm 30. 30, oh my god. Anyway, let's get into it, and we're starting off with my girly, Jane Austen. I have this little box set of all of her works, but I've only ever read Pride and Prejudice, even though I love her. So yeah, the first 5 books that I want to read are Emma, Sense and Sensibility, Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. I would like to have read this entire box set by the time I'm 30, and I will also be rereading Pride and Prejudice, obviously, because why wouldn't I? If you want to see a video of me reading all of the Jane Austen books, let me know. Maybe that's a thing that I can make happen, but I do kind of want to take my time with them because obviously once I'm done, there's no more because she is no longer with us. But yeah, I would like to read all of these books before I'm 30. The next one on my list is one that I just think I'm gonna have such a good time with, and that is Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. I ideally would like to read this whole series, I guess, but just starting off with this, I think I'm gonna have such a fun time with it, and I can really see myself becoming more of a high fantasy girly in the next few years because I feel like I've been putting it off, but I really want to read it. That's kind of where I see myself going with my reading, like my typical romance and fantasy. Those are my genres, and I really would like to read some more high fantasy that I've been intimidated by. Next, we have a book that I always put off, even though I do really want to read it, and that is Circe by Madeline Miller. This has been on my radar for years. It came out in 2018, which is actually more recent than I thought. I thought it was like 2016. It did still come out 6 years ago, which is quite a while ago, and it has been on my radar since then, and I just always put it off, but I really want to read it and, you know what it's all about. I must read it before I'm 30. Next, we have a little bit of a rogue nonfiction, and that is How Language Works by David Crystal. David Crystal was referenced so much in my studies when I did English language at university, so I feel like I'm so familiar with a lot of his ideas, but I've never actually read anything by him, and I am just so interested in the English language. It's just my favorite thing. Maybe not my favorite thing ever, but I love it. I love how language works. So yeah, I think it will be really interesting to read this, and it is quite hefty and dense, but I think I'm gonna have a good time with it, and I would like to read it before I'm 30. All right, the next 4 books are all part of the same series. 3 of them will be rereads for me, but I'm counting them nonetheless because I would like to read them. And those are, of course, the 4 books that are currently out in the A Darker Shade of Magic series. I read the original trilogy when it came out. Now she has expanded it, and the Fragile Threads of Power came out last year, and I still haven't read it. So yes, I would like to reread A Darker Shade of Magic, A Gathering of Shadows, A Conjuring of Light, and then finally read the Fragile Threads of Power before I'm 30. I mean, ideally next year, but like, I'm giving myself 4 years just in case I need it. Okay, now we have another classic, and that is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I barely ever read classics, but I always want to. And I did see the movie with Saoirse Ronan and Timothée Chalamet and the other people, and I enjoyed it. And I feel like I've always been curious about this book, specifically because of the TV show Friends. If you know, there's a specific episode where Joey and Rachel swap books, and he is reading Little Women. I think she is reading The Shining, and he ends up spoiling it for her. So then she like spoils it for him, and it's just a very funny moment. And I've always been intrigued by this book because of that show. All right, the next one we have is one that I've already been talking about reading for the last 4 years. So if I haven't read it in the next 4 years, it really needs to go. But that is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, the first book in the Last Hours trilogy. Ideally, I would read all of the books in this trilogy and be fully caught up with all of the Shadowhunter world. Who knows if that's going to happen, because I keep saying I'm going to read it and I don't. So maybe I will have read about characters who are 16 by the time that I myself am 30. Who knows? By the way, that was no shade to anyone who reads YA who isn't a young adult. You do whatever you want. You read what you want. I don't care. Okay, the next 3 books that I have are all part of a trilogy, but they really signify a bigger world. Anyway, it's the 3 books in the original Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. We have The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages. I have already read The Final Empire and I loved it. I have not continued on with the series. I would like to reread The Final Empire and read the rest of the series, but really I would like for that to kick off me reading all of Brandon Sanderson's work, because I'm really curious about the Stormlight Archives and the, you know, expanded Mistborn universe, or the Cosmere, that's what it's called. Yeah, I would really like to get more into Brandon Sanderson, and that starts with reading these damn books. I've got to read these in the next 4 years, and hopefully everything else he's written, if I, you know, enjoy it. Okay, the next one we have, again, another fantasy, is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I've talked about this book a lot recently, but it's just because I'm very excited to read it. And again, this is more of like a kicking off my journey with Robin Hobb. I would like to read this trilogy and then the other 2 trilogies, which are all connected. I just want to be reading more fantasy, and this one is such a beloved series that I feel like I'm really gonna like it, and I hope so. This and the other 8 books in the series is really what I mean when I say this one. The next one I've got is Velocity of Z by David Grann. I've read 2 of David Grann's nonfictions, and he has such an amazing writing style. I love the way that he makes historical events read like a thriller. He is just so talented. This one sounds really interesting as well. So yeah, I really want to read this one. I always say I want to read more nonfiction and then I don't do it, so I have to do it. The next 2 that I've got will complete a series, and that is Blood and Honey and Gods and Monsters by Shelby Mahurin. These are books 2 and 3 in the Serpent and Dove trilogy. I read Serpent and Dove this year and I loved it, so I really need to continue on. And I've been saying that for like 6 months, so I really just need to do it. I need to actually commit to finishing series. So this is me committing to finishing that series. Okay, now we're actually moving on to some like award winners, some books that I've been putting off because I feel like they're going to be very emotional and heavy, and I really want to read them, but also I know I need to be in the mood to cry when I read them. So the first one we've got is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I have heard about this book nonstop. I think it came out in 2014, which is when I started my channel, and it has been on my radar since then. And you know, now there's a TV show, it's everywhere, and I still have not read this. If I don't read this by the time I'm 30, I don't think I'm ever going to read it, so I better read it by then. Similarly, I have The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. At this point in time, I haven't read anything by Kristen Hanna, and I have been meaning to for years. I literally have this book on my Kindle, so I'm like, can I just read it already? Like, what am I doing? I don't know, and I need to read this. The next one I've got is another award winner, which I've heard so much about, and that is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I am so annoyed at myself that I haven't read this yet. I think I'm intimidated by it purely because of its length, but it is a multi-generational story, which I feel like I haven't read one of those in a really long time. But I actually really love stories like that. I just barely ever reach for them for whatever reason. But yeah, I love a multi-generational story, and this book is set in Korea and Japan in the 1900s. I feel like I really don't know anything about that area of the world at that period of time. So yeah, I really just need to read this one. on in the next 4 years. You know, that's plenty of time to get to it. The next one that I've got, and the last one of my like award winners that I'm intimidated by, is Homegoing by byeeeee Jessie. I have heard so many amazing things about not only this book, but this author, and I have been meaning to read this for such a long time. But again, it's just one of those books which is like an award winner, and I just, for some reason, feel intimidated by them. I don't know why, but I just never pick them up, but I've been wanting to for such a long time. So hopefully in the next 4 years, I will get the courage to actually read these books. Speaking of books that I'm intimidated by, the next one is another fantasy, and that is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I have been putting this one off for years again. I've heard so many great things about this series, and I really think I'm gonna love it. I have it on my Kindle already. I don't have any excuses. I really need to read this. Next, I have The Huntress by Kate Quinn. I really enjoyed a newer book by this author, and so I've been wanting to go back and read her backlist for quite a while, but I haven't had the most success. But I want to keep trying, and I've heard that this one is really good, so hopefully I'll get to it soon. The next one that I have is The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. Like I already said, I want to be reading more nonfiction, and I feel like this is a really important story, and also it's going to be very interesting and engaging. I've actually heard nothing but good things about this book. The next one that I want to read is another nonfiction, and that is Stolen Focus. I really want to read this one because I can tell that my attention span is not what it used to be thanks to reels on Instagram. I am slightly addicted and it is a problem. So yeah, I'm really interested to read this one and hopefully learn something from it, change my relationship with social media a little bit, and also improve my attention span. Going back to what I mentioned at the beginning of this video, like my plans for the future, I really don't want my children to be iPad babies, and I think that it doesn't really set a good example for your child if you are also sitting there on your phone all the time. Obviously, this is no judgment to anyone because I don't know. I haven't experienced this in my life, so I don't know. This is just something that I've thought about already, is like in the future I need to spend less time on my phone because I don't want my kids to pick up bad habits from me. I think this is actually a really important one for me to read before I venture into that stage of my life. That's why I want to read that one, which is so scary to talk about, but it's true. And finally, number 30, we're ending with a fun one. I really want to read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I frequently talk about how much I enjoy her books, and yet I've only actually read 2 of them, and I always talk about going back and reading her backlist, but I haven't done it. So yeah, I would really like to go back and read more of her backlist books. So we're gonna start with Part of Your World because I've heard really amazing things and I have high hopes. But anyway, yes, those are the 30 books that I would like to read before I turn 30. Wild. I know it's still a while away, but it just seems so weird to me that I'm now like closer to 30 than I am to 20. And I'm like, that's weird. Very strange. Anyway, that is all that I have for this video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. And please let me know down below what books from this list you've read and enjoyed. I would love to know. If there are any books that you think I should read, let me know. Obviously, this list is set in stone, so it's not going to change, but I can always take recommendations for anything. And if you wanted to leave a comment, but you don't know what to say, just leave me the party hat emoji down below because it's my birthday. Speaking of which, I'm gonna go celebrate, so I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.